What a great dinner date this was. Not bad. The food was pretty good. But for a hole-in-the-wall Italian place like this, it'd be weird if it wasn't. Well, anyways, what was the total damage on this one? Let's see. Oh, $26.95? That is rather affordable. Oh, this is an intro. So what's on the menu for this video? Well, it's a great budget option for gaming now, and for upgrading later when you have to. It isn't the best GPU around, but it certainly is better than a GT 1030, or most used budget eSport GPUs really, especially because of the price. It can typically be found for less than $40, which makes it a greater choice or contender price-wise than an RX 460 for example, as I have shown before, and you can get them for around $30 it seems on average. But yeah, what is it? Well, I was whipped up and served the absolutely delectable Radeon R7 360. A 2GB card with some low performance but with a decent value for its near $25 price tag. It honestly, when configured correctly in a system, could be one of the best budget cards to own when in a pinch. However, just like finding that tasty, cheap, and affordable restaurant that you heard from a friend that's somewhere in the next town over, you gotta do a bit of searching for it first. Before we see how this GPU performs, we need to do some extra stuff to make it extra good, hopefully. The standard drivers for this card, I am sure are perfectly fine, but since the card has stopped receiving driver support since late 2022, it can be a bit dodgy in terms of running some newer titles, or just new games in general I imagine, especially since it only has 2GB of VRAM. However, we have a trick up our sleeves. NIMS. For a GPU this rundown with the classification as a mid-range card, developed in 2015, it has everything going against it, so we are going to need all the help we can get. Look at it like adding salt and pepper to an otherwise bland meal. Gotta spice up that bargain lunch in some way, right? Anyways, after installing our custom drivers, it was on to testing out a couple of games that should run no problem on this card. After confirming that everything seemed like it was in working order, I went from a less blocky shooter to a much smoother one. Starting out with the last good Battlefield, Battlefield 5, I set up preset settings to low and kept the game at 1080p. For the most part, it ran fine. Plenty for someone who wants a quick and fun shooter experience, that of which would only cost them $25 if they already own the game to begin with. Of course, if frame rates are a bigger deal to that person, they could always lower the resolution a smidge and get a 60 plus average no problem. So far, so good. I then switched over to CS2 because CSGO is RIP. And it makes me wish CSGO wasn't, because the game can run decently I imagine, but I don't want to lower the quality any more than I already have. It looks fine, in the same way that cold pizza that was sitting out from yesterday is technically fine to eat. MSI Afterburner doesn't want me to record frame data or anything, but I could get the game to run above 70 frames per second on average, no problem from what it looks like. This is 1080p, but I kind of expected this to run better than, say, an older laptop in terms of this sort of gaming experience. Nevertheless, this is a success. And I am sure for many people, this is fine for just hopping into a lobby and knocking a few down with some friends after a long day of work. But yeah, moving on to another esport title. Rainbow Six Siege also left me a bit disappointed, but at the same time, way better about the results with this GPU. Our average was similar to that of the eyeballable average in CS2, however Siege is better optimized and has been around longer in this case. So for a good 1080p experience such as this one, I can't find much to complain about, especially since this is set to the medium preset settings and not a bunch of minimums. Wait, I gotta remember, I'm not a Yelp reviewer. Don't forget where you're eating at Budget Bin. So anyways, that was pretty good. I gave Apex Legends a go as well since I felt that we were already around the block with all these FPSs, and it ran also decently with a close 60 frames per second average, and when I lowered the resolution a little to 1600 by 900, I easily was able to get a much higher average as a result. Nearly every setting had to be set to its minimums in order to accomplish this, so yeah, this is... Monsieur, is there something wrong? No, it's just, I want something a bit more exciting, I suppose. Well, lucky for you, the chef would like you to try this. Red Dead Redemption 2 should run in theory. The only thing is, I found my results to be rather spastic. Like for example, here it is running at 1600 by 900, and my frame rate is locked at 25 FPS. And if it isn't locked at 25 FPS, it will spike to 37.5 and lock up there. This was very strange. And if you pay attention to our frequencies too, and how our card boosts, it gets even weirder. Clearly this has to be the drivers, right? Maybe they did something to cause the game to act this way. Even at 720p it does this too, except it stays at 37.5 frames per second nearly the entire time. It even crashed at the end of my benchmark. Perhaps I should have stuck with the legacy drivers. Maybe that's what's wrong. Or maybe it's because the game is running under Vulkan API instead of its DirectX 12 counterpart. Let's switch that real quick, keep it at 720p, and not much has changed. If anything has gotten worse, maybe this is just Red Dead though. Not every mom and pop pizza place is going to be the best of the best, you know? Anywho, I moved on to Helldivers 2, because why not? It should do okay. Yeah, it was playable technically, but I don't think many people would want to play this game like this. Or maybe they would be okay with it considering the price? I would lower the resolution to tell you that you could enjoy it this way, but then the game starts to get really garbled when you do this. Plus, I'm sure when a lot of action is going on, frame rates will drop significantly, and essentially leave you in a almost unplayable state. If you still want to get on the Helldivers action though, the first game runs perfectly fine with this card, so at least you can enjoy that, I guess. Honestly, I figured a lot of new AAA titles would struggle, which, I mean, they did, and that I would have to lower resolutions to make things playable, but not to GT 1030 levels. To be fair though, it is outperforming the GT 1030 by a fair margin. I mean, it can technically run a lot of AAA games, even Cyberpunk 2077, which the GT 1030 technically can't do all that well, if at all. I did have to run the game at 720p if I wanted high consistent frame rates, but I don't know. I just want more, I suppose. Like, this could be worse technically, but I just want... Wait, I'm forgetting what this GPU is. I already knew this GPU wasn't going to be a powerhouse card or a workstation GPU or anything like that. It's a mid-range card from 2015. It's a surprise it even does this well to begin with. This isn't Outback Steakhouse or Cheesecake Factory. It's a local brick-and-mortar restaurant. It will run many games technically and play all sorts of titles, many at 60 FPS at 1080p. This card was cheap for a good reason, even back then. Just like many hole-in-the-wall restaurants, not all of them are going to be a hit, and none of them are Michelin 5-star. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a good time. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy it. Just that not every place you go to and everything on the menu will give you the best experience. You win some, you lose some. And look, we did order something we didn't know would be good from the menu anyways. Especially since I don't even know if these custom drivers were any good. I mean, they did function, I guess, but look, the R7 360 isn't the best. But it's familiar. Like how the GTX 550 Ti is familiar to me. The 2GB model specifically. The R7 360 makes you work with its limitations and explore different avenues, different tastes, different games. Because while it will not run the best of the best, it doesn't have to. And personally, I can enjoy it, even if it isn't for everyone else. So, I feel like this card is probably okay, in the same way I hope you found that this video to be okay. So why not give it a like? Also, while you're at it, you can subscribe if you like this sort of content and want to see more of it. Comment what you think, or if I am out of my gourd on this. Dislike it if that's the case, follow me on Twitter maybe, join my Discord, and oh, as always, thanks for watching.